My mother-in-law called me infertile while my wife stayed silent, so I divorced her and married her cousin. My marriage to Stephanie started falling apart when we began trying for children, and her controlling mother, Patricia, became convinced I was the problem preventing grandchildren from happening. We'd been married for 5 years when I finally felt ready for fatherhood, watching my brother with his kids and feeling that deep longing to start our own family. After months of unsuccessful attempts to conceive, I got tested immediately and came back completely normal. But Stephanie kept postponing her own fertility appointments despite my growing frustration with the delays. She always had excuses, work presentations, illnesses, or just general reluctance to face what might be difficult news about her own fertility. Meanwhile, Patricia began her campaign of psychological warfare, calling constantly to ask about pregnancy news and making increasingly pointed comments about my adequacy as a husband and potential father. The breaking point came at Thanksgiving dinner, when Patricia, after drinking wine all afternoon, looked directly at me and announced that it was a shame Stephanie had married someone who couldn't give her children, adding that she always knew I wasn't man enough and that Stephanie should have married her ex-boyfriend Tom instead, because at least he came from good stock. The room went silent while I sat there humiliated, and Stephanie just stared at her plate without defending me or correcting her mother's cruel assumptions about my fertility. Patricia continued her assault, making increasingly vicious comments about my masculinity and suggesting that real men would have given their wives babies by now, all while the extended family sat in uncomfortable silence, and Stephanie refused to speak up for her husband of 5 years. I felt completely alone and betrayed, not just by Patricia's cruelty, but by my own wife's refusal to defend me against these baseless attacks on my character and manhood. I couldn't take the public shaming anymore, and finally exploded, telling everyone at the table that my fertility tests had come back normal, and that Stephanie was the one who hadn't even bothered to get tested yet despite months of delays and excuses. The aftermath was devastating as Stephanie accused me of betraying her trust and humiliating her in front of family, while Patricia launched a full-scale war against me with phone calls and texts demanding I apologize for embarrassing them both. What made everything worse was discovering that Stephanie had secretly been tested months earlier and learned she had fertility issues, but was too afraid to tell me because her mother had convinced her that men always leave women who can't have children. This revelation explained her behavior, but also showed how deeply Patricia's toxic influence had damaged our relationship and Stephanie's self-worth, creating a web of lies and fear that had poisoned our marriage from within. Despite attempts at couples counseling and trying to rebuild our communication, Patricia continued interfering in our marriage by showing up unannounced, going through our personal documents, and calling me daily with abusive voicemails blaming me for Stephanie's fertility problems. When I came home early one day to find Patricia literally rifling through our medical records in our living room, claiming she didn't believe Stephanie really had fertility issues and insisting we were lying to cover up my inadequacies, I finally told her to get out and stay out of our business. Instead of supporting me, Stephanie defended her mother and accused me of being too harsh, leading to our biggest fight yet, where I said she wasn't ready to be a mother if she couldn't stand up to her own mother, which caused Stephanie to slap me and lock herself in our bedroom before leaving to stay with her parents the next morning. During our separation, Stephanie's cousin Lauren reached out to offer support, understanding the family dynamics better than anyone since she'd also been a victim of Patricia's controlling behavior throughout her life. Lauren had always been the black sheep of the family, choosing to become a teacher instead of pursuing the corporate path Patricia approved of, and she'd endured years of criticism and manipulation from her aunt. As we spent more time together during my darkest period, with Lauren bringing me meals and listening to my frustrations, I realized she understood and supported me in ways Stephanie never had, leading to genuine feelings developing between us despite the complicated family situation. When Stephanie finally served me divorce papers, claiming I was emotionally abusive because Patricia had convinced her of this narrative, I was devastated, but also relieved to be free from the toxic family dynamics that had poisoned our marriage beyond repair. The ultimate vindication came when Lauren and I started dating seriously, and she became pregnant with twins just months into our relationship, proving definitively that my fertility had never been the issue despite years of Patricia's accusations and public humiliation. Patricia launched a new smear campaign, claiming Lauren had trapped me with a pregnancy and that I'd been cheating all along, but this time I had Lauren's strength and support to weather the lies rather than facing them alone, like I had during my marriage to Stephanie. Today, I'm happily married to Lauren with our twin daughters, living a life filled with the joy and chaos of two beautiful children who've brought happiness I never imagined possible. Stephanie has finally begun standing up to her mother and apologized for how everything ended, while Patricia continues trying to cause drama because she can't accept that her manipulation and cruelty ultimately drove me away to find happiness with someone who actually valued and respected me.